Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and in celebration of Family Guy's anniversary, I will be reviewing a couple of Family Guy specials. Now, technically, I should have started this back in January, because that's when Family Guy, well, first began, in the month of January. But I didn't think of it at first, and at the time, but, you know, a while back, it occurred to me and dawned on me that, I should probably do something like this. And thus, I have, and thus I'm finally doing it. And it's only fitting that one of the first Family Guy specials that I review is something Star Wars. And obviously, I would have to start/review with the first Family Guy Star Wars special, which being Blue Harvest. Yes, Blue Harvest, one of the first three Family Guy Star Wars specials where Family Guy basically did their parodies of the original Star Wars trilogy from A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And obviously with Blue Harvest, it's A New Hope. And by the way, because Blue Harvest is actually a name that they actually used while filming Star Wars. I think maybe around the time of Empire or Return of the Jedi. I'll have to check again, but yeah. So that's right. Blue Harvest, and I'm not doing it alone, because joining me is, well, someone who he too, like me, is a fan of Seth MacFarlane and, is a fan of his work and such. And, and he's joined me reviewing a couple of other Seth MacFarlane materials. So, yep, joining me is, of course, one of my good friends, Anchorman.
Hello there.
Yes, and it's good to have you for this. And finally, we're doing something Family Guy.
Yes.
Yep. So, so before we get into, actually no, because my bad, because I was thinking usually I start with myself, and if I have someone with me, and then I would go into the description / the story. So, yeah. All right, so the first things I have to say about the first Family Guy Star Wars special, Blue Harvest. Well, obviously, I knew the existence of Family Guy doing Star Wars parodies, and at the time when they came out and how old I was, well, I wasn't quite ready to watch Family Guy, and, well, yeah, because like any other kid who, as of now, has come to watch Family Guy, I know the same probably goes for you, Anchorman, because, yeah, most of us, we weren't allowed to watch anything Family Guy until at a certain older age in our teens, and yeah. And of course, when I did finally watch Family Guy, and when it came to watching the Star Wars Family Guy specials, well, yeah, because I, of course, thought they were pretty funny. And there's no doubt about it that the Family Guy Star Wars specials are one of the highlights of the Family Guy show itself. And, because you can tell, and it's so obvious that Seth MacFarlane, because he is a huge Star Wars fan, and yeah, because all that put into, what Family Guy did, parodying Star Wars, and not to mention, George Lucas himself gave the Family Guy people full permission just to let them have it, doing any Star Wars parodies, jokes, and such in Family Guy, because, fun fact, George Lucas is a fan of Family Guy itself, and that's, what? That would have to be something for Seth MacFarlane, because to have the man who created Star Wars, something that you're a huge fan of, you geek out of and such, to be a fan of something of yours, that is something. Not to mention, because, Seth MacFarlane, he had gotten to know George Lucas, even John Williams, because even a quick fun fact, because Seth MacFarlane, he actually had a couple of words to say to good old John Williams when John Williams received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the AFI Awards. Yeah, AFI short for Lifetime Achievement Awards, etc. And the fact that, John Williams' music and score has been incorporated in a couple couple of projects that Seth MacFarlane has done, like, of course, most notably, the Family Guy Star Wars specials, and a little bit of John Williams' music and score from Jurassic Park made its way into Ted 2, if you know about that. Yeah, and not to mention, because even Seth MacFarlane, he one time got to interview with George Lucas. But yeah, just overall, with Blue Harvest, because yeah, Blue Harvest, well, this being the first one, and obviously, because, well, you know, they have to start with A New Hope. You know, you obviously, anybody, like, you know, anybody who would really want to, you know, watch Star Wars, anybody who would see it for the first time, well, I think it's obvious they would have to start with the original trilogy, because let's face it, that's where it began, it came first, and yeah, and it made sense for Family Guy to do that. Yeah, so Blue Harvest, it was good, you know, and a good start for Family Guy's Star Wars parody trilogy, the best way to put at it. Okay, Anchorman, now we finally come to you. I gotta slow down. What are the first things you have to say about you know, the Family Guy Star Wars parodies, and you know, with Blue Harvest, because we're doing Blue Harvest. So yeah, we'll start with you. What do you have to say?
So I was not allowed to watch Family Guy as a kid, but the only ones my parents would let me watch are the Star Wars parodies, and that's the ones I would watch. But sometimes I would sneak watch Family Guy when my mom used to watch it. So, but I really like Blue Harvest.
Uh-huh.
It's like a great parody of New Hope. Like, it follows the movie, even though they do skip things in the movie because it's a show after all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and I don't mean to cut you off, I mean, they still found a way to, you know, tell, you know, I mean, pretty much the entire story and what goes on in A New Hope. Yeah.
Like the important stuff.
Exactly. Anything else you gotta say before I, you know?
I think it's very cool that George Lucas liked Seth MacFarlane. That seems so inspiring that he would support Seth in his projects, and Seth being a fan of him. That's very cool.
Absolutely. All right, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. With the Griffin stuck at home during a blackout, Peter begins to tell a story, which leads to a Star Wars flashback, acting out scenes from Star Wars Episode 4, gotta do the 4 fingers, A New Hope. Peter plays Han Solo, Lois is Princess Leia, Stewie becomes Darth Vader, Brian plays Chewbacca, and Chris is Luke Skywalker. Cleveland and Quagmire play the parts of R2-D2 and C-3PO, while Herbert is the wise old Ben Kenobi. Okay. You know, by the way, because another quick mention, because around the time of, like, the mid / late 2000s, because, you know, there was a lot of animation material that was doing Star Wars stuff, because, well, not just Family Guy, but also Robot Chicken, you know, fellow neighbors on Adult Swim, because they were doing Star Wars stuff at the time, and even a mentioning of Robot Chicken at the end of Blue Harvest, until, you know, get into that more when we get to it. And because this Blue Harvest, it came out in, I mean, it aired on TV, that is, on, you know, Fox TV and such, on September 23rd, 2007. And, you know, to think that with this and Robot Chicken, both of them would come out, they would be doing Star Wars stuff until, well, Star Wars itself, Lucasfilm, a year later, they would do a piece of animation of their own, which of course being The Clone Wars, starting with the movie, and a couple of months later, we would get the show, so yeah. So as I said, because I just thought I'd point that out, because a lot of animation happening that had to do with Star Wars in the mid / late 2000s, but yeah. So yeah, with Blue Harvest itself, because yeah, the Griffins, they're watching TV, because what they're watching, I think, is like the Golf Channel, and it's pretty funny. The announcers, like, I think, like, they comment on the golfer's wife, and then of course there's a blackout, the power goes out, and, you know, they're wondering what to do. Like, Brian's suggestion is maybe they can light candles and read, but they find that hilarious. And Meg, I think, yeah, because they suggest that maybe they should tell stories. Meg wants to hear the story of, like, when she was given birth, and what Peter says, like, again, because how the Griffins treat poor Meg, and the fact that Meg has no main role in these in the three Family Guy Star Wars specials, the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy, because I mean she's there, but. Yeah, so that's when, and then Peter, well, then he talks about Star Wars, and starting with, well, episode 4. And like, because, you should know what to expect when it comes to Family Guy, like some text, like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but in the future, and then, get the opening crawl, and like, it's like the opening crawl just gets out of, like, character or whatever, like telling the story. It's pretty hilarious. And then of course, well, from there on, just, Family Guy, as I said, does, and as you too, Anchorman, because we were kind of saying this at the same time, how, with Blue Harvest and with the other two, they still follow the stories that happen in the original Star Wars trilogy itself, but of course, since this is Family Guy, throwing in stuff that Family Guy does all the time, references and jokes, and, of course, the Griffins not really acting as the Star Wars characters, but acting as themselves. And, by the way, like, let's talk about the casting. Like, the casting on, which Family Guy characters, because they play, the Star Wars characters. I know because I already said that when I read the description / the story, but still, well, first off, because Quagmire as C-3PO, Cleveland as R2-D2, that's pretty good. And, Lois Griffin playing Princess Leia, yeah, and of course got those hair buns, gotta have those, which, being orange, because her hair being orange, and then seeing, of course, and who better to play Darth Vader than Stewie Griffin? Of course he would have to be Darth Vader. And the Stormtroopers, well, I mean, not much on them, nor say, like the background characters, like the Rebel Troopers, the Stormtroopers, nothing really. And we'll come to you, Anchorman, like, anything you've got to say where I've come to so far, and, your thoughts on, I mean, I know I didn't name all of them yet, but still, like, coming to you, what are the first things you have to say?
I really like Cleveland as R2-D2. I love how he has, it's basically R2-D2 with hair, and I thought it was so funny when I saw it as a kid.
And you know what, because... I don't mean to cut you off, because that's another thing, because, of course, Cleveland as R2-D2 has to have the hair, so it's Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yep.
Quagmire as C-3PO, I don't know, that's, Quagmire is weird, but, like, I guess if he can play C-3PO, that's cool. And, Stewie as Darth Vader, I like it. Like, the way he looks, it's super cool.
Yeah, definitely. Again, just who better to play Darth Vader than Stewie Griffin, of course. Like, it's funny, because you have a baby as Darth Vader, and who's British, so... You notice that, like the lighting on the eyes, they do kind of move sometimes. Do you know what I'm talking about? On Darth Vader's mask.
I never really noticed.
The reflection, on the eyes of the Darth Vader's mask, they do move sometimes.
They do?
Yeah. How'd you not notice that?
I don't know. I guess I must have missed it.
Okay. And continuing with the rest of the cast of characters playing the Star Wars characters, the Family Guy characters, I should say, playing the Star Wars characters. Well, because there's also Chris Griffin as Luke Skywalker. I think it's obvious, and, especially since both Luke and Chris, they almost have the same kind of hair length, and they're both blonde, so, and Peter Griffin as Han Solo, yeah, that makes sense and very fitting, and it's obvious, who better to play Chewbacca than Brian Griffin? Because Chewbacca being this big, gigantic, like, dog-like creature, and the fact that George Lucas based Chewbacca off of a dog he used to have, a husky named Indiana, and by the way, very quickly, quick fun fact, his dog, Indiana, would, the name of his dog, Indiana, that, like, he would use his dog's name for Indiana Jones. Yeah. That's nice to see, like, his dog, like, going from Chewbacca to Indiana Jones, but yeah. Also, Obi-Wan Kenobi, well, I think it's obvious, like, because how, Obi-Wan Kenobi / Ben Kenobi being an old man, well, it'd have to be Herbert the Pervert, so gotta have Herbert in there somewhere, and very fitting for him to play the part of Obi-Wan Kenobi / Ben Kenobi. Also, Admiral Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin, another way to call him, very fitting. The late, legendary Adam West, and a couple of others, like, Joe Swanson, because he was Biggs, Luke's friend. They knew each other on Tatooine, and both of them being a part of the Rebel Alliance. And a couple of others, also, I think, because Bruce, the performance artist, who talks like this, and him being voiced by Mike Henry, because he's Greedo. Yeah, that's funny. And even like Tom Tucker and Diane Simmons, they're in there as Imperial newscasters. That's funny. Yes. Okay. And coming back to you, Anchorman. Anything else to say on the cast?
I don't know. Herbert the Pervert as Obi-Wan. I see why they chose him, but, like, do you think it'd be weird if they did the prequels and Herbert was Obi-Wan in those episodes? If it feels totally weird.
Well, I mean, technically, like, if I don't see why not. Besides, I think maybe once or twice we had seen, like, in flashbacks, we had seen Cleveland as a young man. Yeah, because there was one episode, I think this was a pretty good episode on Herbert the Pervert, because he served in World War II, and he did a good thing, like, helping out Chris, because there was, an ex-Nazi soldier, and once again, that ex-Nazi soldier and Herbert the Pervert, they come face-to-face with each other, so... Yeah, so again, because we've seen Herbert the Pervert as a young man, so, yeah, probably so, because they had Herbert play Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's clear they would still have him as Obi-Wan Kenobi. But anyways, also, almost forgot to mention, because Lois's parents, because who played Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, because... Carter and where was Aunt Beru? Because, as always, I've got IMDb pulled up, and, here she is, Carter and Barbara, Lois's parents, because, very fitting, and it makes sense, because, them playing Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and how sometimes Carter, especially towards Peter, can be a jerk. Do you have anything to say on that, too?
Carter plays... I think, doesn't he also play the Emperor at some point in the parodies? Yeah,
he does. And before he was the Emperor, he was Uncle Owen.
Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, because Mort, because he's in this, and he was a Jawa. He just appeared for one quick scene, as a Jawa. And then, of course, when it came to something dark side, if I got the total of somethings right, because he would go on to be Lando Calrissian. Okay, so continuing on with the special, because, again, the casting of the Family Guy characters playing the Star Wars characters, really good. So, so continuing on, because... As I said, Family Guy, of course, doing exactly, what the story, how the story goes in A New Hope and, in Blue Harvest, and the jokes. Like, we have to talk about the jokes, because, the references and jokes that are in Blue Harvest, they're pretty good, because, like, there's one of, Wheel of Fortune, like, deal. No, deal or no deal, because like Princess Leia telling Darth Vader that she she put the Death Star plans in one of the briefcases, and he goes for number 14. That was funny, and and at the beginning of it, because when we first see C-3PO and R2D2, R2D2 had a bag of weed, and then later on, because they use weed, they take the weed, and this is right in the smack in the middle when they are in the garbage disposal and they're about to be crushed. And C-3PO and R2D2, they're not doing anything about it, but they do something. Like C-3PO, like the back of his head like pushes a button, and well, it stops the garbage disposal from crushing them and so on. What goes on Tatooine is pretty funny, because R2D2, he wears like this kind of cap or something, like probably because of the sun hitting them, and then what's nice is that because Moron Cleveland Brown is R2D2, and you know what, because to keep it easy and such, like I'll just call them like, say, Peter Solo, Lois Organa, Darth Stewie, Brian Chewbacca or something, Chris Skywalker. I think you get my point. So, because it's nice that R2D2 Cleveland did get to talk, of course. I mean, I think you kind of have to, instead of just having him just go beep boop beep. I mean, he did that at the beginning of this. In fact, he did that, in all three, when he and C-3PO Quagmire, first appear in all three, because the first things that R2 Cleveland would say is beep boop beep. So that's nice. Like, still have the beep boop beep in there somewhere. So, okay, so we'll come back to you, Anchorman. Like, anything you've got to say, and with what I've had to say so far?
I love the part where Cleveland R2D2 pulls out the weed and is like, "You still got that bag I gave you?"
Yep.
I love the scene where like he walks away from C-3PO saying, "My father was a service droid," and like he walks away, and then he's zapped by Jawas. I love the towel on his head. Like, those scenes are so funny.
Yeah, because of what Quagmire said, and that basically insulted R2 Cleveland. Well, that was one reason. I mean, they found a way, because it had to happen. They had to find a way as to for them to separate on when they first arrived on Tatooine, and eventually each of them getting captured by the Jawas.
Yes.
Yeah. And also because also, like, the animation, like, okay, because, the animation Family Guy is always great, and especially in these Family Guy Star Wars specials, the ships and the planets, the atmosphere and everything, they look fantastic, don't you think?
Yeah, they look exactly like how they look in the movies, but, like, in animation style.
Yeah, it's like you can just swap the Family Guy characters with the actual Star Wars characters themselves, and well, have them be animated and to go with the ships and the planets and just everything, and it would still look fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not to mention, because I seem to recall, I think there was this, like, one piece of Star Wars fan animation on YouTube. It had to do with X-Wings or something. I don't know. Maybe it had to do with the Resistance animated show. It's been quite a while. I can't remember, but I remember seeing that on YouTube. And I remember, like, in the comments section, I think maybe one or two comments said something about this looking like Family Guy Star Wars. And I agree. I agree with those commenters, because, yeah, it looked very similar to how the ships and such and the Death Star, because I remember the Death Star being in there too. How it looks exactly like how it looked in the Family Guy Star Wars specials. Okay, and not to mention, because not just like the ships and everything, because also the use of the music and score of John Williams. Now, that was good too, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
they do the movies really well.
Yeah, I mean, of course you've got to have that. So, by the way, another fun fact I'd like to mention, because because I mentioned, Chris and Luke Skywalker, and with that, Mark Hamill, because I don't know if you knew this, Anchorman, and that goes for you two viewers. Maybe some of you do, I don't know. Fun fact, Mark Hamill, he pulled out of doing a DVD commentary in protest over Peter's line about how Harrison Ford was the only actor whose career wasn't destroyed by Star Wars.
Oh, he did that? He didn't like how they said that?
Apparently not.
Do you think that's fair that Mark thinks that?
I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, whether if Family Guy sometimes does these jokes intentionally or not, I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a laugh and such. But you know what? I mean, it would have been interesting if Mark Hamill did do this. I mean, you wonder, like, what he thought of Family Guy doing them. I mean, aside from how he felt on Peter's line, I'm just saying. But, yeah, so, and continuing on with the special, because, like, of course, the droids being picked by Uncle Owen and such, and, because Luke, he's tired and sick of living on Tatooine, and he wants to get out there and to help take on the Empire, and because of the sunset, help me, do you know, Anchorman, like, what's the specific name for the sunset thing? The twin sons. I think there's more to it, but I'm sorry, guys. You're gonna shoot me for this, but I'm sorry. I wish I could remember the whole name of that part with this twin sunset thing. But you know what I'm talking about, because with that, and it's funny because out of nowhere, Chris Skywalker saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, John Williams and the London Symphony Orchestra," and we see John Williams and the London Symphony Orchestra right there. Like, what did you think on that joke?
It was nice that they acknowledged John Williams, and it's like cool that he got a little small cameo with his orchestra.
Yeah, and two or three times, I think, two times where we see John Williams playing different, music that he did. So, in this and also in, the third ones, It's a Trap. I almost forgot that. Yeah, the third one called It's a Trap. So, and so, because, at one point, and as we all know, because R2-D2 fled, but I don't think in this, like, there was a specific reason as to why he fled. I mean, was there? Do you recall, Anchorman?
Like, why R2-D2 left?
Yeah, fled, and thus Luke and 3PO had to go find him in Family Guy Star Wars.
I don't think they kind of glossed over how they kind of ignored what they originally did in the movie, but, like, in this version, I guess he could be like, R2 trying to find, like, Herbert? I'm not sure. That's how I kind of viewed it.
I don't think that's what it was, but anyways, maybe another insult, I don't know, but, so them, they find R2, and, we of course get the Sand People / the Tusken Raiders, and I really can't remember this one character. Obviously, he's in Family Guy, it's the show itself, but, okay, yeah, Opie as Tusken Raider. Do you remember the character Opie?
I don't think so, because I'm starting to watch all the Family Guy.
Okay.
But, like, I remember the more iconic characters.
Yeah.
Like, the ones we're more easy familiar with.
Exactly, yeah, because I don't seem to recall watching an episode of Family Guy where Opie showed up, because, he's a Tusken Raider, and him just going, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa," and, well, of course, enter Ben Kenobi scaring off the one Tusken Raider and such, and, of course, Herbert the pervert as Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, complimenting and just, what he says to Chris. Of course it has to be in there, but still, gotta stick with what's in Star Wars, and you're Obi-Wan Kenobi, and so on. And thus, playing the transmission, and it was funny, because early on, like, Lois, like, after she did the message, and her talking with R2 Cleveland, what do I press, blah, 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 but, okay, but to speed things up, because, of course, like, it dawns on, Chris Skywalker that, something must have happened to, his uncle and aunt. And of course, because, seeing the burned crisps, of course it has to be in there. and to make it, and this was funny because even John Williams and the London Symphony Orchestra got burned to a crisp, like, you know, just their skeletons. Like, anything to say on that?
That was wild.
And then, you know, then Chris Skywalker going, oh, great, now we got to do the rest of this with Danny Elfman. And Danny Elfman showing up, and it doesn't take too long for Chris Skywalker to chop his head off, so...
It was dark.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was funny having Danny Elfman. Like, could you imagine if Danny Elfman did, like, music and score for something Star Wars?
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. It would be interesting, like, you know, depending on what piece of Star Wars it is, and so on, but yeah. Anyway, so then proceeding on to Mos Eisley, and, like, because, yeah, at times like Quagmire and R2, Cleveland R2, Quagmire, 3PO Quagmire and R2 Cleveland, like, sometimes, like, you know, with them hanging out with droids and so on, because, like, you know, C-3PO Quagmire had sex with a 90s printer, and, like, R2 Cleveland, like, mentioned, I guess, a niece or something of his, I don't know, like, because of Mos Eisley, and C-3PO Quagmire asking, is she single? And R2 Cleveland's response, she's a lesbot. So, and then proceeding on to Mos Eisley, and it is there, like, the whole thing of, like, using Jedi mind tricks on a stormtrooper, but, you know, there's one stormtrooper who's, like, you know, letting people into the cantina, and, yeah, basically you have to have a chick with you to go in, but they don't, and, well, of course, then Kenobi, Herbert Kenobi, yeah, doing a mind trick on the stormtrooper, and thus they proceed. And by the way, because a couple of cameos in the cantina, because and if you noticed, because there was let me see, like oh, okay, because I also have, like, the trivia pulled up on its IMDb page. Okay, so two well-known familiar characters who appear in the Mos Eisley Cantina. There's Bender from Futurama and Roger the Alien from American Dad. Also, the monkey that Chris comes face to face with was in there too, and also there was someone else that. I mean, I don't really know that much about this one other character. Okay, yeah, because apparently Coach McGurrick, if I'm even saying the last name right, he's from an animated series called Home Movies. I don't know that much about him, and, you know, as we do this review, but do you have anything to say on whom appears in the cantina?
They're cool cameos, even though I don't watch those shows, but, like, it's cool that Seth is using his other characters from his shows and putting it in his parodies of Family Guy.
Yeah, and sometimes having, like, say, characters from The Simpsons or Futurama, anything from Matt Groening, like, popping up sometimes, very occasionally in Family Guy. So yeah, well, besides, because, you know, fellow Fox, you know, animated shows, so there you go. And, of course, we get the whole thing of, he doesn't like you, I don't like you either. And imagine if this did happen in A New Hope itself, because what Family Guy does, because what Chris Skywalker says after, you know, I don't like you either. You don't even know me, and nothing major happens, because, you know, everything is all right. Like, do you have anything to say on that one?
It's funny how they did it, like, a somewhat more calm way.
Yeah.
Say, like, in New Hope, where Obi-Wan chops off the dude's arm.
Yeah, I mean, even Obi-Wan was trying to keep things peacefully, and, you know, even offering them a drink. Now, let me get you something, but yeah, they're not having it. They want violence. So, yes, and of course, you know, then coming face to face with Peter Solo and Brian Chewbacca, and of course you gotta have it, but really, because you gotta let Brian talk. He does a bit of the Wookiee growl, but basically he was gargling, and yeah, and he even said Waka Waka. I mean, he technically almost looks like Fozzie Bear. Like, what do you think on that?
It's funny. Like, it's cool he's representing the Muppets, and, like, he's You almost imagine if like the entire special was just Brian doing Wookiee sounds, and that'd probably get annoying for some people.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mean I don't understand it. I mean, maybe not for everybody, but I mean, I never had problems with Chewbacca's, Wookiee.
No, nothing like that. But like, if imagine he
Okay.
was gargling the whole special.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
don't find Chewbacca annoying. No.
no, I mean, who wouldn't? So Chewbacca being a lovable and memorable, iconic,
Yeah.
character in Star Wars, for crying out loud. So.
Yeah.
And besides, just for that one joke, of him growling, but he was really gargling, so yeah. And by the way, because speaking of Fozzie Bear, because, Brian went Waka Waka, on the merchandise side of the Muppets, because, the Muppets dressing up as Star Wars characters, and Fozzie Bear is Chewbacca, and I think that's an obvious one, so, and then of course, Peter Solo coming face to face with Greedo, and a mentioning of Jabba, and one of Greedo, because Bruce the performance artist, because one of his iconic quotes, is "Oh no," and him saying it in the language of Greedo. That was funny, and of course, Peter Solo shooting Greedo. And I can't remember because, the whole thing of Han shot first, and if you would even remember this, Anchorman, because when you watched Blue Harvest, because, yeah, I mean, it's hard. I have to go back and look, because, obviously it goes by fast, no doubt about it, and just like how it is in A New Hope itself, because whoever shot first, Greedo or Han, like, do you recall, like, who it was that shot first in Blue Harvest?
I think it was Han.
Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure, because, what, a quick mentioning of the whole controversy of Han shot first. Well, because, the thing is, like, some people say that Han Solo should not be a cold-blooded killer. Well, yeah, but at the same time, like, he knew who he was dealing with, and, well, Greedo, of course, and he had a feeling that he was probably gonna get shot, and thus, making that quick move, killing Greedo, shooting him. And I'm pretty sure, like, when A New Hope made its way to Disney Plus, and you see, this is how it wouldn't be that hard to do, because you can still have Greedo shooting, but yeah, have Han quickly shoot, and with Greedo shooting as well, and him quickly dodging it, like. I'm sure, that's the best I can explain. But anyway, so continuing on, so. Them, proceeding on to the Millennium Falcon. And, of course, you have the whole thing of, what a piece of junk. And then Peter Solo's response, like, thanks. Like, this was my brother's. He died of leukemia. Now, how does that feel? That was, oh my gosh. What Family Guy does sometimes. Like, any comment on that one?
I love the scene. I love the part where R2 says, "You got any strawberry milk in there?"
Yeah, that one.
That's what he says after that wild line.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and thus them getting out of there because, an ambush of stormtroopers. And, it's amazing how the shots with the ships, well, of course, they, Family Guy would have to, having the shots of the ships in space and such, even like the Millennium taking off, like, from the landing place, in, Mos Eisley, to them escaping the Death Star, and with the whole Death Star battle, the Battle of Yavin, I should say, because how they do those shots and have them, of course, resemble how they were in A New Hope itself. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say something, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Anyways, so yeah, them escaping, and it was funny because Peter Solo notices, like, in one of the two Imperial cruisers that why you looking at yourself on while you're driving? That's funny. And them going into hyperspace, and this is probably one of my favorite jokes in this. I mean, I have a couple of other favorites in this. One of them, because when they go into hyperspace, and Peter Solo saying, "Man, hyperspace is so freaky," and then we see Doctor Who, and it's Doctor Who of the Fourth Doctor era, because with that Doctor Who intro. Like, do you have anything to say on that one?
The hyperspace looks hilarious. Like, it's just doing like a wacky version of it.
Well, and the whole thing of Doctor Who, and if you get the
Yeah,
reference.
yeah, I see what they're doing.
Yeah. And then, like, not long, like, right after that, because coming back to the Death Star, and a couple of TIE fighters pass by, and this one TIE fighter, I guess, is beat-bopping or something. Does that sound right?
I think so.
I mean, if you know that, if you know what that's supposed to be.
Maybe.
Okay.
No,
I mean,
wait, is it like? Are you talking about the TIE fighter that was like a party looking TIE fighter?
yeah, that one, yeah.
I think it was beatboxing. It was like glowing or something. It looked like a style of TIE fighter.
Right. And then, of course, we, obviously have to have this, like, the whole thing of Alderaan being destroyed, and, again, just good old Adam West, and, his voice role as Mayor Adam West, and him playing the part of Grand Moff / Governor Tarkin, that's perfect, and, and also, because, like, Lois Organa, like, commenting, saying that I recognize your foul stench, and Darth Stewie's comment and him responding on that, oh, that was me, I made a Darth doo-doo or something, like, and then Tarkin West, best way I can call him, telling Lois Organa that they're gonna, test the weapon of the Death Star on her home planet, Alderaan, and, her saying no, and, then he turns to Darth Stewie. She said no. Should we still do it? Yeah, and thus they proceed to. And right after the Death Star firing on Alderaan, and, because the shots, the shots of the Death Star firing on Alderaan, it was good, but also, cutting to the part where we see it blow up, like, they didn't incorporate this, I mean, if they wanted to, I mean, besides, it wasn't there when it was originally released in 1977, that shockwave. Do you have any comment on that?
Is it meant to like hey, I don't know, mention how they didn't add that New Hope, but they'll mention it in the parody or something?
I guess so. I mean,
I don't know what I'm saying.
I mean, look, the shockwave, because the whole thing of the shockwave, like, with something being blown up, the planet of Alderaan, and the two Death Stars, both of them each three of them being blown up, and they have, like, a shockwave and such, because that would be incorporated in the Star Wars Special Edition in the mid/late 90s. So, and George Lucas, I think obviously that was George Lucas's doing, because he thought that was a cool thing to add, and you know what? It actually was, because it matched very well with, the planet of Alderaan and, the two Death Stars being blown up, don't you think?
Yeah.
And I said,
it's like oh, my bad.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's like when George Lucas wanted to change a bunch of things, and when he was doing the originals, and when he did the special edition, I guess he wanted to add that for the Death Star blowing up, being like, I guess, like, something cool, more cool to look at.
Yeah, and besides, because, like, we could go on, like, talking about that subject of, the changes added, but, to keep it very short, because, George Lucas, like, the new additions, like the CG shots and so on, like, that was his vision for Star Wars, but unfortunately, at the time, those ideas he had, the visions he had for what he wanted to see in Star Wars, well, they didn't come to be, because, well, ILM, they just about got started, and they weren't there quite yet. And even, like, best said by George Lucas, because he pointed this out, that, a famous filmmaker once said, films are never really completed, they're only abandoned. And that is exactly what happened with George, because him feeling as though that, he didn't want to abandon his movie, and he wanted to go back and complete it. So, and besides, like, I think, looking at how some of those shots originally looked in, like, say, A New Hope, I mean, they're okay, but I think especially when the special edition happened, and with some CG shots and so on, yeah, definitely, most of them looked pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what do you, what, I mean, I was just gonna say, what do you think on that?
The way I view the special editions of Lucas adding the CGI, I once saw Doug Walker mention this when he reviewed the special edition. He views it as, like, Luke is coming back to his project
Yeah.
and putting more touches to it to make it look more nice. That's how I use it as like a painting.
There you go. There you go. That's another good way to put at it. And yeah, Doug Walker, what he had to say on the special edition that he did for his Disney-cember, I think it was pretty well said. Because there's no doubt about it, and I won't deny it, but, myself. Like, some of them seem to work, but some, maybe not necessary, but still. Anyway, so continuing with Blue Harvest, because, by this point, they've made their way to the Death Star. It was funny, because of an old, arcade game, the Astro arcade game, if you get that reference.
It's like an old video game.
Exactly, yeah. So them seeing that outside of the Millennium Falcon, and, they get captured by the Death Star, they're being pulled in. By the way, because after the Death Star shot Alderaan, because two Imperial officers, they were chatting and such, that was pretty funny. And, because those two Imperial officers that, just, shielding themselves from the bright green light, that whole thing, and even we see two others, as the Death Star's being pulled in, one is reaching for the other, but just hey, get your hands off me. That was funny. And I think, there was a popcorn stand or something when they got in there, but anyways. And thus, they take down a couple of stormtroopers that, get on board the Millennium Falcon, and thus, because we know Chris and Peter, they're overweight, and, because how they look in the stormtrooper costumes, anything on that to say?
It makes them look iconic in their stormtrooper uniforms.
Yep. And then, Peter Solo telling them to follow his lead, tiptoeing, and playing the mini Mitcher theme. I think I got the name right. Dun dun dun. I think even if you don't recognize Mini Mitcher or anything like that, you would at least know that piece of music. So something like that.
Yeah.
So thus, Herbert Kenobi is going to proceed, shutting down the shield and so on, and tractor beam, and etc., and for them to escape. And while, because Peter Solo, Chris Skywalker, as well as, Brian Chewbacca, Quagmire, C-3PO, and R2 Cleveland, all of them proceeding on, most of them proceeding on to, find and rescue Lois Organa, and then, because, Herbert Kenobi telling Chris Skywalker that this will probably be the last time they see each other, which, because we know what happens in A New Hope itself, and thus, and of course, sometimes you gotta have this in Family Guy, like a song number or two. And of course, we do have it in Blue Harvest, Family Guy doing Star Wars, where Herbert, he sings his rendition of, he sings, now I have had the time of my life from Dirty Dancing. Do you have anything to say on that song number because of Herbert singing that?
It's funny that we're getting Mike Henry, who does Herbert, do that song, and it's in a whistly voice. It's funny.
Yeah, besides, Herbert does have a bit of a whistling voice, so, but that's not to say, you know what? From Seth MacFarlane to, Mike Henry, them voicing their Family Guy characters, and whenever it would come to them singing as their characters, they're still good. They're still good at singing as their Family Guy characters. Don't you think on that?
Yeah, they sing a lot.
Yep. And of course, just like in Dirty Dancing, because Chris Skywalker running up to Herbert Kenobi and lifting him up, but with the Force and kind of tickling him. So, and thus proceeding on, making their way to save Lois Organa, pretending that Brian Chewbacca is a prisoner and being transferred, and them coming face to face with a mouse droid, and the mouse droid talking, "Oh shit!" and interacting with another mouse droid, and what did you see? And they mentioned Tyra Banks. Okay. And they're looking at like a map or a map like you would see at malls, where to go, which location and such, and one with a Death Star, and thus they get into an elevator which has music to it, a Muzak elevator basically, and one floor that they accidentally stumble upon is a stormtrooper wedding church and such. Like, anything on that one to say?
It's like if they went. I don't know. It reminds me. I don't know what it reminds me of, but like I like how they're going through the elevators and they're seeing a bunch of random stuff like that, like stormtroopers getting married and stuff. Like it's meant. It's like parodying. I like an elevator scene in any other movies.
Yeah.
I guess in Star Wars or something.
Yep. So, and so of course they make their way to the prison cell location, the floor where the prisoners are being held, and of course one of them being Lois Organa. And you know, there's one Imperial officer there, and thus he's still shot. But nothing like, say, what happens in A New Hope itself, like, you know, blasters firing and they fire on the cameras, nothing like that. But of course, you know, Peter Solo interacting with someone through the intercom and so on. And then it just goes straight to, you know, him sitting down and, you know, like that whole, like, it's like this, like, radio talk show thing. Like, anything on that?
Where Han talks to that guy. It was funny how it's completely different from what we see in the movie. It's like,
yeah,
it's like Peter's just randomly giving some advice to someone in the Empire, and then, like, unlike in the scene where Han tries to play it cool in New Hope, like, I thought it was funny.
Yep. Okay, so, and then of course, you know, Chris Skywalker saving Lois, and, you know, aren't you this time, because, you know, Lois as Leia saying, aren't you fat for a stormtrooper? And that was funny. And well, thus them going down the garbage chute, and, you know, and kind of just like how it is in A New Hope, like, you know, Han just, you know, getting Chewbacca down there, and for him to get Chewbacca down the garbage disposal, well, he kind of nudges him. But in Family Guy with Blue Harvest, you know, tricking Brian as Chewbacca, you know, to go after a pig's ear, like, you know, oh, come on, you know, you're not gonna, throwing it, you know, that was funny. Yeah, because that's happened a couple of times in Family Guy where, you know, they pull something on Brian, like, you know, go get it, and Brian, he thinks he's not gonna fall for it, but sure enough, when whatever they throw, he does, and just him running and barking, that's funny. And at the garbage disposal, because as I mentioned her, because she doesn't have a huge major part in any of the Family Guy Star Wars parodies, all three of them, but she's still in there, but as a creature. And Meg in the garbage disposal is like the one-eyed creature that pops up. Anything to say on that?
I feel bad for Meg, since she gets mistreated a lot, and then, like, she's even mistreated in the Star Wars parodies.
Yeah,
like, you just feel bad.
Yeah, don't we all feel bad for Meg? Don't we all? Yeah. So it's kind of like how you know, people also feel bad sometimes for, like, say, other cartoon characters, like say Donald Duck or Daffy Duck. You get my point. So yep. So they're best examples. So and so, yeah, them, like, you know, trying to shoot and such, yeah, that, and even, like, Peter Solo made a harsh joke or something, you know, towards Lois Organa about Alderaan. Jeez. I mean, he went there. He just about went there. And thus, like in the film, the garbage disposal, like, you know, activating, and, you know, they're gonna be this close to being crushed to death. And like I said, 3PO Quagmire and R2 Cleveland, you know, taking some weed, and it's like they don't do anything. They don't help them out. But as I said, Quagmire 3PO, does on the back of his head pushing a button. So yeah. And then, because they see in the garbage that, well, half a pizza was thrown and a good couch, like, you know, and still in good use, and Peter Solo, he decides that he's gonna take it, and it's funny, just them trying to get the couch out of, like, say, you know, a door or whatever, like, anything on the whole couch thing.
It's funny that they find some random couch, and this is some random subplot in this special.
Yeah. Yeah, and so eventually, because then they here's another thing, because whether if they wanted to do or not, they didn't do this one, like, famous, like, one of, like, well, as if anything in A New Hope is iconic, just about almost everything. But one of them being, well, where Luke and Leia, they swing on to the other side. Like, yeah, Blue Harvest didn't do that, but I guess, like, with how Blue Harvest turned out, like, the final results, it seemed to work fine without doing that. What do you think on that?
I think that's my only issue with the specials. Like, I wish they did certain scenes, but I
Hmm.
guess because of runtime, I felt they only wanted to do what they felt would be good enough for the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, sometimes, like, like, I think there are two different versions with all three of the Family Guy Star Wars specials. Like the extended versions of them would be, like, say, up to like probably like 48 minutes and such. But yeah, like, most notably with something 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 dark side and It's a Trap, because a lot of stuff was cut and toned down. In fact, some swearing was removed just a little bit. And if you know about that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
alternate versions, best way to put it, alternate versions of the Family Guy Star Wars specials. Like, I guess best way to put it, yeah, the extended slash director's cut versions of them, where there's more in the three Family Guy Star Wars specials.
Yeah, there's definitely maybe more extended versions of it in the Star Wars specials, or like
Hmm.
I don't know if you watch the maybe DVD versions. That's what I think
Yeah.
it'd be longer.
Yeah, and also because as of now, I don't seem to remember, like, if seeing the shorter version of Blue Harvest, because again, Blue Harvest and, the version I watched of Blue Harvest, the running time on it was the, like, 48-minute version of it, where there's more to it. So maybe there is one where it is shortened a little bit, but still, like, yeah. All right, so continuing, because, yeah, so then coming to the part where, Herbert Kenobi coming face to face with, well, Darth Stewie, and his lightsaber is not really working because it's just kind of like a noodle, it's kind of down and such. But then, you knew where this was going, because then when Chris Skywalker and the others, they pop up, and, well, they're about to hop on the Millennium Falcon, and they can see what's going on, between Herbert Kenobi and Darth Stewie. Well, because, Herbert Kenobi's lightsaber is now pointing and such. Like, anything on that?
It's meant to be a very adult reference, and I didn't get it as a kid, but watching it today, I totally get it now.
Yep, and knowing Herbert and how he is on Chris, so...
Yeah.
And that's all we're gonna say.
Yep.
And of course, like in A New Hope itself, where, well, Darth Stewie, he kills Herbert Kenobi. Herbert Kenobi making the sacrifice. And also because, the fact that within A New Hope itself, Darth Vader striking down Ben Kenobi, because, well, one line that Ben Kenobi says, "If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." And, well, I think sure enough, because Ben Kenobi did. So, well, because they get they get out of there, but all while, still they're struggling to get the couch in the Millennium Falcon, and even when they take off, Peter Solo is still outside of the Millennium Falcon. Like, I mean, it is a cartoon, but still, he's in freaking outer space.
His head should be flying off.
Exactly. So, well, or be frozen, just either way, because he's in freaking outer space outside of the Millennium Falcon while he's holding onto the couch. But somehow, of course, like, hopefully it didn't take them too long, because, well, they got the couch in and just so on. And not long after that, because when they get out of when they escape the Death Star, well, we have another memorable moment that, of course, is in Blue Harvest. Of course they have to do it. The TIE Fighter battle. The Millennium Falcon fighting off against the TIE Fighters with both Luke and Han, and, of course, Chris Skywalker and Peter Solo in, the upper and bottom top parts of the Millennium Falcon with, the guns and such, and then firing the TIE Fighters. Anything on that sequence in Blue Harvest?
It was funny when Peter was trying to do, like, the music.
Yeah.
To that scene.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and I love the scene where R2-D2 Cleveland pulls out a gun and then shoots the TIE fighter.
Yep, and part...
says, like, yeah, oh, you say it.
Okay, I mean, if you wanted to do it, so...
He says, that's how we do it in my neighborhood, bitch.
Yeah, of course. And also, because, like, even, like, you know, because with Chris Skywalker going, I got him, and then Peter Solo saying, great kid, don't get penisy. And then, out of nowhere, because sometimes you don't see something, like, pop up and such, like, sometimes jokes come out of nowhere, and with the TIE Fighter battle, because apparently Leslie Nielsen pops up, and it's archival audio of Leslie Nielsen from Airplane, you know, saying, I just want to tell you both, good luck, we're all counting on you. And fun fact about Leslie Nielsen's cameo and why it's archival audio from Airplane, well, you think that they would have gotten the actual Leslie Nielsen to record for that. Yeah, but the thing is, apparently, according to the DVD commentary, archival footage slash audio, that's basically what it is, archival audio. It was used of Leslie Nielsen's lines from Airplane, as I said, because, and again, this is true, because again, according to the DVD commentary, the reason they didn't get Leslie Nielsen, you know, in for this and such, is apparently he was too expensive.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they did get big-time familiar faces who appear a little bit later on until I mentioned them. But yeah, like, they were unable to get Leslie Nielsen. That's unfortunate. Well, the fact that Leslie Nielsen, he was still alive, so yeah, but... Well, I mean, okay, because it's understandable, but still, it's a shame that, you know, out of those they brought in to guest star / cameo in Blue Harvest, and that also goes for the others in the next two Family Guy Star Wars specials. Out of all of them, they couldn't get Leslie Nielsen, like, and especially for him being in something like Family Guy, jeez. But, you know, I don't want to make that much of a complaint, because it's understandable, yeah. And of course, you know, they destroy all the TIE fighters. And you know what, even like, say, they wonder why they're called TIE fighters, and we see, like, you know, an Asian guy, you know, in one of the TIE fighters. Anything on that?
Okay, so, that guy, I think it's like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like a stereotype, but like there's something in the guy who's driving the TIE fighter. Yeah, because again, as I just said, like, you know, because them wondering why they're called TIE fighters, and I guess that's an example, like, you know, of an Asian guy being in there, like TIE. I think, yeah, because of the word. Oh, yeah. Now I get it. I think now I fully get it. So it's one of those things where you don't quite get it at first, but then it fully hits you, just like that. So anyway. Yeah, so, okay, but anyway, so after the TIE fighters were destroyed, then at one point, Peter Solo, I almost said Chris, Peter Solo, like, he then calls his mother, like, you know, they won the battle with the TIE fighters, like, anything on that? Anything to say on that, of him calling his mom? It kind of reminds me of when Mark Hamill called Princess Leia Carrie Fisher during that end scene of the Battle of Yavin.
You know, about that, because, you know, since you brought it up, yeah, because perfect time for me to say this. I don't know, because, okay, I mean, are we sure that it's official that Mark Hamill accidentally called, you know, Leia Carrie?
It might be, might not. It's up for interpretation.
I mean, I've heard about this, but I don't know, because for me, when hearing that, whenever I would watch A New Hope, and when that would come up, because, you know, Luke, and then supposedly he accidentally said Carrie, for some reason, I'm not hearing him say Carrie. I'm just saying, because that's just, I mean, how I'm hearing it, to me, it just sounds like he's saying, hey, or just, I don't know. That's just, but that's just me, so, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, so after that, because then, of course, them arriving to Yavin, yeah, getting my planets it's mixed up. They arrive at Yavin, and of course, them proceeding on, with the Death Star plans, which were, stored in R2 Cleveland, and thus they are about to proceed, about to fight off against the Death Star, because by that point, of course, the Death Star arriving in the system where Yavin is, and, and thus that's when we see, as I mentioned, Joe Swanson, whom he plays, Biggs, because it's pretty funny. Of course, you have Patrick Warburton voicing Joe Swanson, and, where was Patrick? Where's Patrick Warburton? Because, again, I always have IMDb pulled up. Oh, there he is. Okay, yeah. Joe Swanson as Biggs Darklighter. Isn't that Biggs' actual last name?
I think so.
Darklighter? Because I don't seem to recall. Because mostly we've
Star Wars explained.
yeah. So, and besides, we've mostly have just heard him by name, just Biggs. So not by last name as well. But anyways, so again, thus, and also because more jokes that pop up, because like there's a Breakfast Club joke, and you'll get that answer next Saturday. Don't mess with the bowl, you'll get the horns. That whole thing, because John Bender popping up, and oh, okay, and it was actually him. Judd Nelson did reprise this time the voice of John Bender in that one quick scene where John Bender pops up. So yeah, that's cool. And then because the battle begins, like they're making their way to the Death Star, and this is one of my mom's favorite jokes, because she found this really funny, because when it comes to the whole all wings report in, Red 5, Red 6, and then just seen other fighters, like in some in most of the X-wings except for one, because Big Red standing by, Red Fox standing by, or Red Button standing by, Red October standing by, Helen Reddy standing by, Simply Red standing by. Like, again, that is one of my mom's favorite jokes in Blue Harvest. Do you have anything to say on that, the whole red thing?
It's just like it's meant to make fun of a bunch of them, the characters, X-Wing pilots saying red something, and it's meant to be like a longer version of it, because they probably thought the scene was long.
Yeah, and even if you don't get like the references on those that go by the name Red, still didn't you think that was funny, Anchorman?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, because Red Fox, he was a legendary actor. And by the way, because, fun fact, Red Fox, he actually did do something Star Wars related, because he appeared on the Donnie and Marie show in one episode they did, where they did, their own, like, Star Wars piece of material. It was a musical, and you had Red Fox as... it seemed kind of fitting, Red Fox played Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was funny. And the whole thing of Red October, because, the movie Hunt for Red October, and Sean Connery, because John Venner, if I'm saying his last name right, him doing a Sean Connery impression. So, and Simply Red, they're this British band. That's about right. And thus the Death Star battle is beginning, and again, because the animation on the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters and going through the Death Star, and they were really cool. Oh, jeez. The many times that, I guess, like, for most Star Wars fans making jokes and how much they love this one X-Wing pilot Porkins. Well, of course, Family Guy doing something on the character of Porkins and how he's too big and fat and such in the X-Wing he's in. Like, anything to say on that?
I thought it was funny how that Porkins couldn't even fit in the X-Wing, that he literally just crashes immediately when he gets on the battlefield.
Of course, yeah. So, again, because should have seen it coming that, Family Guy was going to do something hilarious of Porkins, and thus they did. And so, again, because the Death Star battle happening, and by the way, because another cameo appearance that we get, because, we got John Bender, Judd Nelson, and he's uncredited. He's uncredited for his voice role as John Bender for this. I think probably, you know exactly who it is, and, probably one of those things. But yeah, so another, funny cameo that we get while the Death Star battle is happening, the Griswolds apparently show up. They're driving in their very own like car, like in the style of Star Wars, their car ship basically, and it's really cool because they got Chevy Chase and Beverly Angelo. They got both of them back for this, like them doing the voices of their characters, Clark and Ellen Griswold. Anything to say on the Griswolds cameo?
I know my parents really liked the Christmas Vacation characters, but I guess it was cool seeing them in this Family Guy special.
Yeah, and Anchorman, because okay, obviously you only know very well about Christmas Vacation, but there were other vacation movies, not just not just that one. And besides, and besides Christmas Vacation, and for you viewers, it was not the first vacation film, because there was Vacation, then Europe Vacation, I think. I hope I'm getting the title of that one right. And after that, after the first two, then came Christmas Vacation. So yeah. Because I know the National Lampoon's Vacation franchise so well, because the cameo of Clark and Ellen Griswold, along with their son and daughter, that was pretty funny, and because Ellen saying to Clark that maybe it's not a good idea to be near the Battle of the Death Star, and Clark is assuring her that it's not all that bad, but once like the blaster bolts comes close straight towards their car, that's when Clark goes, okay, kids, roll up the windows, and thus they get out of there. That was funny. And of course, obviously Darth Stewie joining in and taking on the X-Wing pilots. And it's really funny, his setup and how he's seated in his TIE fighter, his very special TIE fighter. Anything on that? Because how he looks inside of his TIE fighter, Darth Stewie?
It looks funny. It's perfect size for him.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Chris Skywalker proceeding on, and he's gonna, take down and destroy and blow up the Death Star, and of course, Herbert Kenobi, now one with the Force. We hear his voice, telling Chris Skywalker to use the Force, but then saying other stuff to him. It was hilarious, because you still got to have the stuff that Herbert would sometimes say to Chris. It's funny. And thus, Chris Skywalker using the Force, and even at one point, just like in A New Hope, Darth Stewie firing upon Chris Skywalker's X-Wing, and firing right at R2 Cleveland, and R2 Cleveland just F you son of a bitch. There had to be an F-bomb somewhere. So even at times where sometimes we would hear them say the F-bomb, but, sometimes they would be censored. So, from that, and even shit, the word shit has sometimes been bleeped as well. So, hell and damn is fine, but still. Anyway, so of course, then, sure enough, Peter Solo and Brian Chewbacca, they step in and they help out Chris Skywalker, and just like in A New Hope itself, because, firing on one of the stormtroopers and, going, yahoo! And they're sitting on the couch. It's right there where, they're flying the Millennium Falcon. That was funny. So, and also because, just like in A New Hope, because, Peter Solo and Brian Chewbacca, they were about to disembark because they got their, reward money and such, but also, more to that, they got, a gift basket and such. Do you have anything to say on that part, Anchorman?
I like the mini lightsaber Peter uses as, a chopstick or something.
Yeah, and speaking of which, because early on, and I forgot to mention this, because at Herbert Kenobi's house on Tatooine, because whipping out the lightsaber, and according to Herbert Kenobi, everybody else has got a lightsaber of their own, and we see this farmer guy, because he's got one to, being hung, and like for it to, kill and zap any bugs. Even Watto is attracted to the lightsaber light, and Watto being voiced by Luke Adams, that was pretty funny. So, and Watto making a comment, "Why would you put that up?" and so on. That was funny. Also, John mentioned some of the other cast members, like John Benjamin, because he was voicing Phil Mickelson in this, and there was also John G. Brennan, if I'm saying that right, because he's the voice of Mort Goldman, and also because I don't know them that much, but another like well-known thing that John G. Brennan has done is the Jerky Boys. Yeah, so also like a couple of stormtroopers, like one some of them being voiced by Ralph Garman, and and I think Wally Wingerton, yeah, he voiced stormtroopers as well, and even like, of course, having to have the Wilhelm scream in there with Sheb Woolley, who did the Wilhelm scream, of course, is in there. Even and I didn't realize this because the Helen Reddy voiced herself, because in that one joke with all wings report in, etc. So that was nice that they got the actual Helen Reddy to voice herself. Also, yeah, Phil Lamar's there, but yeah. So, anyways, even Rush Limbaugh, the late Rush Limbaugh, is there, and he voiced himself and also voiced Red Six. But yeah, so to speed things up, because Chris Skywalker succeeding on blowing up the Death Star, Darth Stewie survived this, and and of course, victory for the Rebel Alliance. And we didn't get this either, because this was another big thing that they left out, where, the award ceremony at the very end of A New Hope, because, you have John Williams' fantastic score in that, and Luke and Han receiving their medals, except for Chewbacca. Do you have anything to say on that, because of them leaving that out?
I was surprised they didn't have it in there when I rewatched it. And I just wish they did do that scene, but they did in an episode in The Family Guy where it wasn't even about a Star Wars parody; it was just one of the regular episodes. Okay,
nice. And imagine if they did incorporate the other like memorable moments in A New Hope, from them swinging to the other side, Luke and Leia, and the award ceremony, at the very end of A New Hope. Like, imagine if they did do those, and you could just imagine like what jokes they would have had for that. Just yeah. And thus, Peter, he finishes telling the story of A New Hope, and thus, the power comes back on, and then Chris makes a comment about Robot Chicken doing it, much better than what Family Guy did and such. Yeah, I'll read this like it's in the trivia. At the end, Peter and Chris argue over a similar episode of Robot Chicken. Seth Green, the voice of Chris, is the co-creator, director, and producer of Robot Chicken. Seth MacFarlane, creator of Family Guy, and the voice of Peter, even appeared in the Robot Chicken parody. Well, because Seth MacFarlane, he voiced Emperor Palpatine, and I love his Emperor Palpatine voice. He was so good at voicing Palpatine in Robot Chicken. So, but yeah, just that whole part where, yeah, because they're arguing about Robot Chicken and such, and because and like I said early on, Robot Chicken and Family Guy being like neighbors of Adult Swim and such, even though, sadly, Family Guy is no longer a part of Adult Swim, but still, Family Guy being a huge part of Adult Swim's history. There you go. So, and then, because, Chris, to finish it off, because Chris saying to his dad, Dad, you're a real jerk, and then him walking off, and then, to finish it off, Peter just going, and then the credits roll, and it was really cool for the end credits, because it's the Family Guy theme, but it has that Star Wars music vibe and feel, and that's what's important. But okay, we'll come to you, Anchorman, because what do you have to say on the whole thing of the Robot Chicken mentioning and stuff like that, and with the end credits?
I wish I've seen the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials. I don't know where to find Robot Chicken, but I'd like to watch them. But yeah, it's basically like Seth MacFarlane versus Seth Green.
Yeah. And, you know, coincidentally, both of them being named Seth.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so, but I mean, it's like, you know, I guess like the, you know, nothing intentional there where, you know, Family Guy's giving Robot Chicken a hard time and also giving Seth Green a hard time, because when it comes up to the next two Family Guy Star Wars specials, like them just giving Seth Green a hard time and stuff like that. Yeah, again, obviously nothing intentional, just for humor, and clearly, of course, Seth Green would know about this, and just, yeah. And of course, you know, Family Guy humorously poking fun, not just at Seth Green himself, but, you know, his show / his baby, Robot Chicken, so, yeah. And let's face it, I say both Robot Chicken and Family Guy, both of them, there's no competition, they were really good at doing their own pieces of Star Wars parody, etc., don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, you know, as we do this review, because, you know, you haven't seen the Robot Chicken Star Wars parodies, you've got to, man. So, find DVD copies of it. It can't be that hard to find. But okay, anyways, and do you have anything to say because of like the Family Guy theme being played, you know, during the credits and having that Star Wars feel to it, the music and such?
It's catchy. I like how they're trying to do their own version of it.
Yeah, again, because, you know, Family Guy, how I put at it, because it's still the Family Guy theme, but it has that Star Wars orchestra music vibe and feel, that touch to it, and yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, it was a funny way to end it off, because again, the whole thing of Family Guy poking fun at Robot Chicken and such, yeah, it was funny, and a funny way to end it right there. But yeah. Family Guy, Blue Harvest, the first of the the first three Family Guy Star Wars parody specials, etc. Blue Harvest was really good. A good start, and yeah, I mean, it did not disappoint. It delivered exactly what I'm sure most of us would have expected, you know, with the jokes here and there, some that we did not see coming, how the Family Guy characters, how they play the parts of the Star Wars characters, the use of John Williams' score and music, the shots, the animation and the shots of the ships, and just, yeah, with all of that, and just, yeah, just everything about Blue Harvest was really good, entertaining, and of course, hilarious. So, and what are the last things you have to say on Blue Harvest? Your final results and thoughts, etc.
I really like it. I think it's like a great, memorable parody of New Hope, and I think they cast the characters as the Star Wars characters perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah, just again, overall, Blue Harvest, it did a fantastic job with what it had to deliver for, you know, Family Guy doing their parody of Star Wars and what would come next, you know, with the next two Family Guy Star Wars specials, yeah. And, yeah, I mean, how we rate it, well, I mean, we'll start with you. How do you rate Blue Harvest, Anchorman?
Maybe a 9 or an 8.
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah. For me, what the heck? I'm giving Blue Harvest, the first of the 3 Family Guy Star Wars parody specials, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Family Guy Blue Harvest. And what about you guys? What did you think of the first Family Guy Star Wars parody special, Blue Harvest? Is it one of your favorites? One of your favorite of the 3? Which joke was your favorite in Blue Harvest, and what made you just, like, die of laughter the most? And who's your favorite Family Guy character cast as a Star Wars character? And, you know, did you think it was cool? Just, yeah, the use of John Williams' score and music, and the animation with, you know, the ships, and just, yeah, everything about Family Guy Blue Harvest. What did you think of it? And what did you think of me and Anchorman's review of Family Guy Blue Harvest? leave comments, and give this review video a like as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed our review of Family Guy Blue Harvest. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and we'll see you guys in the next video / review. And Anchorman, thank you very much for joining in on this, on the first one.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Yep, and don't worry, guys, because both me and Anchorman, we will be back, reviewing, more Family Guy specials, and of course, it's obvious, the next one we'll be doing, well, is something Dark Side. Stay tuned for that. And say goodbye, Anchorman.
Farewell.
Yep, he says that for me. Again, thank you for watching. Take care, and until me and Anchorman review something Dark Side. I don't think it doesn't matter like how many times you say it, but still. Take care, peace out, and may the Force be with you.